I am sorry to say that your mass media, the Western mass media, always beside the Israelis. Your baby in this area. And you are forgetting completely this organized terrorism. Even in the United Nations Security Council, you refuse to condemn this barbarian attack on the South, but you bless it. And you said that we accept the raid, but it was a little bit more than required. I have to ask those who used to speak about human rights. Where is this human rights there in the South? Did you see the picture there? Our camps, some of these villages had been smashed. Civilian war, yes? Because it is your baby who did it. It is Israel who did it.
Good evening, good evening, good evening. Thank you for joining me here for Think About It Thursday. We got a lot to get into, and we're going to get into it. I promise. Just a quick shout out. First of all, thank you to Miss Arena, because for a smooth 5 minutes, yes, it was 5 minutes. Yes, I did look at the time. I was banned off of TikTok. What did I do? Actually, nothing this time. Actually, nothing. I was very close to tears because all of the series that I have going on, I'm like, I cannot recreate all of this work. I was in the middle of updating like 3 series at that time. Had just pulled the footage, had just done research on the Iron Dome and the presidential candidate for today. And I was just like, oh, you have to be kidding. But yeah, so somebody got in their feelings. So I know y'all love for me to break down comments and give the history behind it. I'm going to fall back for a few weeks because in a couple of weeks, the vast majority of the strikes against my account should fall off. And I should no longer be under an account warning. And then I'll be back to the regular heathen shenanigans. But like I said, we do have a whole slew of things that we need to get into right now. And I done whole shouted her out and watch her be like 30 minutes late, but she'll come back and watch it from the beginning. She'll see it, child. She'll see it. Yeah, we're going to start with a government resignation, and then I'm going to pull you into current events. But before we get to that, I did want to update you all 2 things. In the description of this video, there is a link if you need information regarding the history of what's going on in Palestine. If you want to know how to help, if you're catching a lot of CGVs for being pro-Palestinian freedom, things like that, there is a link that has all that information that can help you. But I also want to let you know, currently 14 of the 36 hospitals in Gaza are no longer functional or no longer exist. I could not get a full breakdown of which is which before we went live, but that is the latest. And also keep in mind, I know news media is kind of pushing out that, oh, they're letting people leave. Palestinians are being able to leave through Egypt. These are people with dual citizenship. These are people who were there visiting family for different events, just like we heard with Israelis that were captured. Because we know some are actual hostages, some of them we got questions about. These are people that their names are on a list. There was a husband and wife today where the wife was able to leave, but the husband wasn't. And the wife is like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know where he's going to be sent, because her passport was for one country, his passport was for the UK. Why? I don't know. Different strokes for different folks, and your relationship is how it works. But it's not like they're trying to get civilian Palestinians out to save them. Don't be fooled. That's why I always tell y'all, the devil is in the detail. Of course it is. That's where you'll find me. Like I said, there is a government level resignation that's pretty high up. Take a look.
Can you just kind of walk me through what led to this decision for you to resign?
Yes, I've worked in the Bureau of Political Military Affairs for over 11 years. This is the bureau responsible for arms transfers to partners around the world. I have never seen a circumstance before in which there is a clear risk of civilian casualties resulting from US arms transfers. And in fact, we are seeing that manifesting on the ground with thousands of Palestinian civilian casualties. And yet no questions asked, not even a debate about whether or not we should provide the arms that are being used to commit those, I believe, human rights violations, but certainly to kill those civilians. So faced with the massive scope of the crisis that we are seeing in Gaza, the massive scope of civilian casualties, the fact that I also believe that the policy has not led to peace for Israel or for Palestinians. It has been a dead-end policy. But absent the ability to have even a discussion about that before shipping arms, I felt I had to resign.
There are more people in the government and in politics that feel like him. They're afraid to speak up because they know it's a career killer. And no, I'm not making excuses for people. Just like there are people in Hollywood, people who are business owners that are like, if I speak up, this could be the end of my business. I don't care. And fortunately, I'm at a time in my life where even if thank goodness, my clients aren't like that, because y'all know I quadruple check. Even if that wasn't the case, and all of them were like, "Oh, we know your stance. We saw blah 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 blah. We're pulling out." I'm still be okay. I'm gonna still be okay, and I don't care. I'll go DoorDash. I'll deliver newspapers. I'll flip burgers. I can't wait no tables because I don't have that coordination. I'll be your favorite janitor. I don't care. But the more we speak out, the more people can see who the majority is. We have to start learning from things and different events in history instead of compartmentalizing them away. Because for so long, people blew off Trump supporters, the Magadonians, like, they're stupid. And they got the big head thinking that they were the majority. That's why you hear them say that. And there's some people who gave up on voting, gave up on acting, gave up on all these things because they would get placed into areas where that's all they heard. Trump this, MAGA this, blah, 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 and they started to think that's who the majority is. But ridiculousness sells papers, gets views, gets the clicks. Just like, have you noticed a bit of a turn of events? You're not getting so much MAGA mania right now. They might report because they need our voices taken down so that they can go back to having the impression that they're the majority, but they're not. You can't sit silently. And I know everybody, I tell you all the time, everybody is not meant for every position. And just like during the times of Malcolm, Martin, Medgar, Rosa, Claudette, some people babysat, some people cooked, some people drove caravan. So now some people will boost, some people will share, some people will duet, some people will say, "Hey, go check this person out." Now, I've referenced this a few times and I realized we really didn't do a breakdown. So let's get into what the Hannibal Directive actually is.
do you know about the Hannibal Directive? Because you are probably about to start hearing more about it thanks to the interview given by Yocheved Lifshitz, the recently released Israeli prisoner who famously shook the hands and politely said shalom as part of her goodbyes to her former captors. The Hannibal Directive is a somewhat mythologized but definitely real policy or general mentality of the IDF and Israel, stating that it is better for an Israeli to be killed than to be taken hostage. It's a very controversial mindset even within Israel, but one of the main arguments in favor of it is this concept that if you are captured by Hamas, then you will be tortured and treated so poorly that death would be better anyway. Which is why the story being shared by Yocheved Lifshitz in her interview is turning out to be so problematic for this Israeli narrative. I've listened to the entire interview. I've also published a full transcript that you can go read by yourself. And I'll tell you right now, this statement that the headlines are all going with, I went through hell, is absolutely true, particularly the day of her kidnapping, which was awful. But also, it's pretty clear in the full interview that she's also describing the difficulties of just living as a Palestinian for a while. She describes how her captors very deliberately made sure her living conditions were identical to theirs. And that means no food, no water, no electricity. It was hell in part because life as a Palestinian is also hell right now. But this part right here, why did you shake the hands of the Hamas terrorists? Because they were gentle with us. Our needs were supplied. That does not fit the narrative of this growing evidence that Israeli forces implemented the Hannibal Directive and were part of the reason so many Israeli lives were lost on October 7th. Mondo Weiss has reached the same conclusion, and so has Jonathan Cook, a journalist in Nazareth. Which means more nuanced headlines like these not only more accurately portray the meaning of the quote in the context of her full interview, they also support the growing narrative that Arabs aren't complete animals and killing your own people so they don't get captured is in no way justified. But you don't have to take my word for it. I couldn't find a full transcript of the interview anywhere online, so I typed it up and published it to Medium. You know where to find it, go watch the video, and draw your own conclusions.
Now, I want to add some caveats so you understand exactly where I'm coming from when I say that, do I believe they're hostages? Yes. Do I believe every hostage that Israel claims is a hostage of Hamas is a hostage of Hamas? No. And it's because of this. Just like in Christianity, they always set you up, especially women, for suffering. They always go, you know, the closer you are to God, the more you're going to suffer. So you can have a testimony. Like they set you up to be abused. And this is what I'm saying about this doctrine. Number one, Hamas taking victims is not to kill them. It's to gain empathy, to show them, to show them the wizard behind the curtain. They're like, yeah, Bibi from Philly. Yes, that's where he was raised. That's why I keep calling Netanyahu Bibi from Philly. This is how we're really living over here. We're not lapping it up. We ain't cool. We don't have everything. They decide when we can have water. It doesn't have to be clean. Like this is what we go through so that when they leave, it can start a new generational thing of empathy and apathy and truth. Because a lot of people don't get it till they live through it as close as they possibly can. And also this whole thing that it's a greater honor and you'll be suffering so bad that it's better to take your own life so that if a hostage turns up dead, nobody has to explain who really had them hostage. It's so that propaganda can continue. Because think about serial killers. Let's just go for serial killers right now. How many of them have we seen throughout history where they knew the victims and the bodies were buried on their property, but they'll go out and help look and set up their next victim as to what not to do or whatever? Look at these relationship gurus that'll tell, oh, that's not a red flag. That's perfectly fine because they want to do it to you. You catch what I'm putting down? Do you? Hey, darlings. Oh, Miss Serena, you missed my shout out to you at the beginning of the show. But that's what they're doing. When they're instilling this into generation after generation after generation, they're not just instilling it into you. And, oh, as soon as you're captured, don't figure out who captured you. Just and if anybody shows up dead, it's because of them. It's because of them. That's all they about. That's why do you think? Why do you think Hamas knows this? That's why they're turning their hostages over to the Red Cross. We've already got confirmation that Israel is not negotiating. They're not putting anybody down at the negotiating table to get these hostages. They're not targeting their attacks. They're just bombing. They don't want anyone to walk around going, hey, they didn't treat me like crap. That's why earlier today, when I said on TikTok, be weary of the hostages that they say are from the United States. Because we know, especially white women that have not deconstructed, they will endure all sorts of stuff, but they will lie to the bitter end and know that they're lying to the bitter end to keep that adjacency to power. Now, I know that there are people that get so far down the indoctrination hole. You're like, they don't see anything. They'll make excuses. They're not making excuses. They're lying. They just don't care because it's about power. And if you think I'm joking, take a look. Take a look at this Jewish extremism.
But can you see it from their perspective, if some of them have lived here for generations, how they might feel like this land belongs to them?
I don't care. I mean, according to the Torah, this is Eretz Israel. It belongs to us.
I mean, you don't think there's any way that Arabs and Jews can live here in peace?
No. They don't have the right to stay here. גוי ויהודי אסור להם לאכול אפילו על אותו שולחן. אנחנו לומדים ככה מהתרבות הרעה שלהם It's all according to him. I don't care anything else. This is all.
You don't care about laws, you don't care about like human rights or any of that, it's all according to the Torah.
The Torah has also human rights. Mm-hmm. The real human rights. You know, in the end, after we build our big בית מקדש, המטרה הגדולה היא להיות אור לגויים.
She's not wrong. If you look at most religious texts, we're going to take Scientology and Mormonism off the table for right now. If you know, you know. Have human rights written into them. Now, do people intentionally screw up the translations? Have people intentionally revised them? Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. But it doesn't say that you're supposed to have dominion over them. It doesn't say that you're supposed to kill them so that you can have that prime piece of property. Does any of this sound familiar? I like your property, so I'm going to be a settler. And I don't like you too close to my property that I just took from you. So I got to you. And I had to leave and come to your land and take over your land because the land that I was in, they didn't treat me properly and I couldn't practice my religion and I couldn't live my lifestyle. But I'm going to come here until you can't practice your religion and you can't live your lifestyle because it ain't like mine. Y'all starting to get why I say we're going to be in a perpetual Groundhog Day until we learn real history? And for those that like to come back after all of this is done and follow me from social media platform to social media platform saying that I do what I do for clout, sweetheart, I geotag nothing. I am not involved in any trends. I don't use hashtags. If this was for clout, my titties would be out right about now. I would actually put makeup on. And my topics wouldn't be history. Lord Jesus. Now, honey child, the POTUS race is getting crazy. Now, from the GOP side of the 2024 POTUS race, you know, every time there's a GOP debate coming up, Trump has to try to pull some type of trick. Now, thus far, I am still going to be checking every day. You know, y'all know how I do. Leading up to right before I go live to give my commentary on the debate, seeing if Trump is going to pull anything out. Because the last time he did pull something out last minute because of the UAW workers. He's trying to change that narrative now, but we got receipts. So the day after the debate, Trump will be honoring, because we know he don't honor nobody but himself, Florida GOP leaders at Mar-a-Lago. And this is everything about it. There's no denying it. It's a move to take over DeSantis's power base. And let's be honest. Let's be honest. Does DeSantis have a lot of endorsements technically out of Florida? Yes. Are they real endorsements? Not necessarily. Because as the governor of DeSantis, he has the power of the line item veto. Now, earlier this year, we watched a governor in a whole nother state use the line item veto for the betterment of the people. That's what it's for. That's not what DeSantis is doing. He has been using that as a threat in order to get endorsements of political leaders in Florida. And most notably, because I told y'all, remember, DeSantis, in my opinion, went backwards. Like, why would you go from being a governor? Why would you go from being on Capitol Hill to being a governor? Like, you climb to the top of the state, then you go from the state, and then you climb up the federal ladder to the tippy top. Like, you don't, that's like being the regional manager for McDonald's and then taking a job at Wendy's and you're back to being the fry cook. Why? But I digress. Senator Scott out of Florida today officially and very, very publicly endorsed Trump. Honey child. And now, as we predicted, RF Kennedy Jr. is gaining some power because a lot of people, and we know this, they do not go past a name or a headline. Once again, for those questioning why I'm going day by day through each candidate that is currently still in the race, this is why. That cuckoo cuckoo nut job almost wiped out the juvenile population of Samoa. But honey. Whoo. Now things was getting juicy in the courtroom regarding Trump and the kids and everything else. We're going to get to that in a minute. Let me wrap up all the literal political stuff before we move on. Now, like I said, as far as this presidential election, let's talk about Miss Nikki Haley, baby. Coming from AP News, Nikki Haley wants to be the GOP's Trump alternative. Ron DeSantis and others are trying to stop her. Ron, she's already climbing the polls. In some places, she surpassed you. Don't nobody like you. Like, most of us are awkward. Let's be real. awkwardness, y'all don't have to keep assigning that to autism and giving everybody your armchair diagnosis of autism. If you just look at human beings, all of us are awkward to one another. All of us are awkward around one another. Now, at a recent closed-door meeting of roughly 60 millionaires and billionaires, one of the Republican Party's most influential donors stood in the well of Dallas's historic Old Parkland debate chamber and praised Nikki Haley's presidential candidacy. Now, y'all know when these millionaires and billionaires, when wealth get together to have secret meetings, two things gonna happen. One, they're gonna come up with a new festival, a new secret behind closed door festival where they eat chili. I don't know what it is about rich folks, like wealthy folks, in chili. They act like chili is a delicacy. I guess. That's gonna happen. And the second thing that's gonna happen, they're gonna make a PAC, a super PAC, a new foundation, a federation to back the person. Okay. And then all of a sudden, this person is just in charge of some shit. You know, like pubic hair can head Clarence Thomas. But Paul Singer deliberately stopped short of endorsing the former UN ambassador and South Carolina governor. I'm not Republican. I'm a member of the Pink Party, legitimately. But as far as the pool that they have now, as far as presidency on paper, like if you were looking at a CVV determining, who to call in for an interview, Nikki Haley is the one. I mean, she get on my nerves. I wish she would stop acting like she a white lady. And it's like, girl, you called yourself Nikki. You didn't even give yourself like the full white girl name. You gave yourself a nickname. Like, there's only one person that I knew whose name was legitimately, legally Nikki. May she continue to rest in peace. And that was a young lady that I went to school with, and she was biracial. Girl, you still trying to have a nod to your... Never mind. The New York hedge fund executive instead spoke highly of Haley's Republican rivals as well, naming Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and South Carolina Senator Tim Scott. He even praised aspects of Donald Trump's presidency, despite Singer's strong preference, like that of the others in the room, to move past the former president. Misogyny at its finest. Misogyny at its finest. They will scramble like we scramble when somebody we know presents us with an ugly ass baby and we look down at this escapee from the zoo trying to find something to say is cute. That's what they're trying to do with the rest of these candidates. He's forcing people in the Florida GOP to endorse him by threatening them with his ability for line item vetoing. The moment described by two people who were inside the meeting last month and spoke on the condition of anonymity to discuss private deliberation captures the conundrum facing many Republican leaders eager to coalesce behind a clear Trump alternative. No, they're bitch made. Politicians are always bitch made. And it's our fault. It's legitimately our fault. The only time we yield the power that we have is when we don't see a direct reflection of ourselves in the politician, and then we beat them over the head where we make them bitch made. We forget that we are not the entire constituency. We want people to look like us, talk like us, walk like us, everything like us. So as everybody's complaining like, oh, they're such pussies, why are they doing this? It's us. Because any other time, everybody afraid to say anything. We love to scream Crown Act, but let any of those black women on Capitol Hill show up with box braids. We know how this is about to go. from excerpts from Romney's book, we know that nobody actually backs Trump. Nobody respects Trump. He just has that public power and public persona that can keep people bitch made and aligned with one another and keep certain people in power. They don't give a damn about us. Every other day, we're told not to trust government. Government bad. Government real bad. No need government, but put me in government. Yay! Weirdest conundrum ever. Now, also in the realm of politics, Tommy Tuberville is not backing down. This idiot piece of shit is still holding up military promotions. And over the night on C-SPAN, I know y'all didn't watch hours of C-SPAN. That's why y'all got me. Every time that they were trying to vote on promotions, I stopped counting it 61 times. He stood up and objected. Now, he says that his issue is female members of the armed forces being able to travel for an abortion. The fuck does that have to do with rightfully earned promotions? And no, Tommy Tuberville has never served in the military. See, it's the same GOP that will tell celebrities, actors, actresses, professional athletes, etc. Oh, you don't know politics, shut up and drivel. But then you got Jim Jordan and Tuberville in here fucking shit up. A wrestling coach and a football coach. I'm pretty good at the caveman thing. Hey, Jane, meet Tarzan. Come with me. No, I'm just Now, Speaker Johnson, it's pretty clear at this point that the GOP voted him in unanimously into the House speakership because they're like, nobody really knows who he is. He doesn't really have any enemies, so they thought. And it's looking like we could control him, so they thought. Keep in mind that he was an attorney for the Alliance Defending Freedom, an anti-LGBTQIA plus organization. He gave legal advice and worked with Exodus, who promoted conversion therapy. He blames the fall of the Roman Empire on homosexuality. No, I'm not joking. And in 2014, as a private attorney, he joined forces with other attorneys on behalf of the state of Louisiana. Let's not forget that. On behalf of the state of Louisiana. Louisiana, we got our eye on you. And this was an attempt to block a woman from adopting her wife's biological child. Now, that case ended up becoming dead in the water because, family equality got passed in 2015. But coming from Mediaite, Liz Cheney tears into dangerous Speaker Mike Johnson for undermining our republic to help Trump try to overturn 2020 election. Former Representative Liz Cheney said during a recent podcast interview that Speaker Mike Johnson is dangerous for the republic due to his support of Donald Trump's claims of election fraud. Before I go any further, I want you to keep in mind that time after time after time again, publicly, and I think he just does this to try to keep a hold on his law license, and because Mike presents himself as like diet racist, diet bigotry, diet homophobe, transphobe, but when you actually listen to the words that come out of his mouth, he's far more egregious than anyone else. And he doesn't have any alliances or allegiances. He's not even aligned to his wife. Hence the fact he convinced her into getting into that covenant marriage, which basically makes it impossible for her to ever divorce him or speak ill about him in public. He's out for himself. And even in his first press conference ever that he did today as speaker, he's giving dictator vibes. Like, he's that lone wolf. When I tell y'all, watch out for the quiet ones, he's like that quiet kid all through school. Did nobody bother them? They didn't bother nobody. You just thought they liked to be alone. And all of a sudden, they done burnt the whole damn city down and built it up, filled with people that are their Stepford wives. Following the 2020 election, Johnson supported a Texas lawsuit seeking to overturn the results in key battleground states after Trump lost. After rioters attacked the Capitol on January 6th, Johnson also voted to object to the results in Arizona and Pennsylvania. During a recently released podcast interview with Larry Sabato, Cheney claimed Johnson went along with the efforts to undermine our republic. He was acting in ways that he knew to be wrong, and I think that the country, unfortunately, will come to see the measure of his character, she told Sabato on the University of Virginia podcast, Politics and Everything. First of all, I'm tired of these women who are also Republicans acting shocked by shit. You know how it goes. And Liz, your daddy is the Republican that shot his homeboy in the fucking face while hunting. You know how this goes. Every single person in the GOP is about individual power. But I'm tired of once they're ousted or once they decide to retire, now they want to act like there's this let me be honest, like they're supposed to be our folk hero now. No, her, Romney, Ken Buck can all go suck a dusted, infested dick. You don't get to tell us after shit is on fire and we have no water, sand, or dirt to put it out. You knew all this shit when it was going on and you were sitting there quiet as a damn church mouse during Sunday dinner celebration. You was happy to pick up the crumbs and num all over it. Now that they done cut you off because they patched up the hole and you can't sneak in no more, now you want to tell? Now, coming from ABC News, Speaker Mike Johnson tells Senate Republicans he's open to Ukraine aid, but Israel aid will have to move first and separately. Now, it did pass the House. It's going to be dead on arrival in the Senate. That's bipartisan, and Joe Biden isn't going to sign it. The package that Mike Johnson put together is just political. He can say whatever the fuck he wants. Do I believe that he gives a damn about Jewish people? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Mike Johnson is that level of Christian that he blames Jewish people for the death of Jesus and doesn't see Jesus as being Jewish nor Palestinian. Because he knew this bill wasn't going to go through. This was I got this power, I'm going to fuck everything over. I'm going to pretend to give you what you want, but I'm going to keep muddying the water so that you really don't get what you want. Because this would take away money from the IRS that would investigate tax fraud and millionaires, which we need their proper tax money to sustain ourselves in this country, increase the national deficit before we even have a proper budget to get us through just till next year, because we still have till the 17th of this month before it's shut down to get that together. And it only included aid to Israel. Did we forget about all the connections over there and what Putin is banking on? And everybody keeps saying that Putin is aligned with Hamas. Why? What would an alignment with Hamas do for Putin? Abso-fucking-lutely nothing. I give you two guesses as to who he's really aligned with. House Speaker Mike Johnson spoke with Senate Republicans Wednesday about his controversial Israel-only aid package in an effort to gain their support, telling them that he wants to get additional aid for Ukraine passed, but the Israel aid will likely have to move through first and separately. Johnson addressed the Senate Republican conference in a closed-door lunch that lasted about an hour Wednesday afternoon. During it, Johnson discussed his aid package and signaled a new willingness to advance aid to Ukraine, something that he has voted against in the past. Remember when I told y'all he was quietly campaigning to people the moment that McCarthy was ousted? Nobody shifts their mind that quickly, especially nobody's bringing him conversations, nobody's bringing him evidence. Just over lunch, oh yeah, I'll change my mind. At home. He wants to piss on all of us and tell us it's rain. Nutshell. Real quick before we get into this trial, I got one more video to show y'all before we get into everything that happened in the courtroom today in New York. Because baby, this is why I'm a court drama girly. Okay. Like I always tell y'all, I might not know who dating who. And I may not know the neighborhood or even the celebrity gossip, but I know the gossip that's worthwhile. Now, for the second time in 3 years, Trump has been dropped from the Forbes 400 list. And keep in mind, it was fraud that was getting him on that list. And Trump's career and his current fan base, the Magadonians, their reason for following him, his reason for having a career has been his revised origin story. He started off saying, oh, he's self-made. People are like, you're not self-made. But he gave two origin stories at the same time. And so many people take the second lie and tout it with such confidence like it's the truth. Like, no, his dad just gave him a small loan of $1 million. No, it was $3 million. It was none of the above. He got the company, sued for the entirety of the company and the inheritances of his siblings. The man ain't built shit. Like, he barely can build shit. But also keep in mind, because I put it out on TikTok and it was going over so many people's heads, even though I tagged it as such, 5 days before the election, not the insurrection, not the inauguration, 5 days before the election, Trump took back control of the trust that controls his businesses. He was not thinking about a re-election. He wasn't banking on one. He didn't care about one. He got the money he needed by his happenstance oopsie doodle of stumbling into the presidency, and he was done. I truly think that he thought, I can stay out of the office, but still make Oval Office money if I put this narrative out. And now the only reason he's running again is because his feeble attempt of going too far with the grift has put him into legal trouble. So now he needs an insurrection 2.0, another self-coup to hopefully intimidate people or worse, so that he doesn't do any jail time. But before we get into the courtroom antics, take a look, because we always love to have a good kiki ha 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 at the expense of Laura Ingraham.
So this week, Laura Ingraham, host on Fox News, had a bit of an awkward moment when she decided, along with her guest, a man by the name of Raymond Arreo, to make fun of President Biden for definitely screwing up the name of a very prominent telescope that, was launched into orbit. So here is Laura Ingraham and her guest just rolling in laughter at how stupid President Biden is. Take a look.
This is not going to help us in the long run.
Well, did he call it the Webb telescope? Isn't it the Hubble?
Yes.
Was he thinking Webb Hubble? I don't understand.
Who knows? But look, his performance today, Laura, was so unsteady.
Man.
Even Kamala Harris couldn't keep a straight face like you.
Oh my God, can you imagine? What an idiot! He doesn't know the name of the Hubble telescope? Man! Wow, Laura, you got him on that, right? Well, a few minutes later, after Laura Ingraham had done another segment on something else, I guess a producer had whispered in her ear that, hey, the Webb telescope is in fact a thing, and that is what he was talking about. So Laura Ingraham had to come back on the air, and she said, all right, there is a Webb telescope. She admitted with a laugh, stumbling several times herself over the word telescope, something they had both mocked Biden over only a minute earlier. I stand corrected by Joe Biden, Laura Ingraham sheepishly admitted, and then, of course, just moved on as if she hadn't just completely humiliated herself by not knowing that there is, in fact, a James Webb telescope. Now, listen, I'm not a big astronomy guy. I'm not big into space and all that, but even I knew that the James Webb telescope was a thing. It was launched in late 2021. It was a huge thing when this was launched. It came online a little bit later in 2022. Even Fox News not only covered the launch of the telescope, so the network Ingraham worked for covered the launch of the telescope, but they have repeatedly, through multiple segments over the last year and a half, shown images from the telescope that they have described as stunning and marvelous. So it's not like this was a big mystery. All you had to do, Laura, to know that President Biden wasn't screwing up was, I don't know, watch the news. I mean, you work at a news network. I don't imagine it's that big of a stretch of an imagination here to think maybe you watch the news. I mean, do you read the news? That's what this tells me. It tells me that we have a host on Fox News that is so disconnected from the actual news that she doesn't know what's happening in the world. She only knows what's on her little teleprompter. And if they don't write it in there for her, it doesn't exist, because apparently she's not watching the news. She's not reading anything. She's not, absorbing any facts.
Because it's Fox Entertainment. It's never been news. Why take the time to prepare for your show? I think this podcast right here is a perfect example that politicians will give you enough legitimate material to make fun of them that you ain't got to make shit up. You don't have to come uneducated. Look, if I can research it, okay. I don't suggest keeping the schedule that I keep at all. Don't keep a schedule like mine, okay? Get some self-care in there, get some sleep, eat regularly, if you can. Yeah. But seriously, if I can do research, anybody can. And there have been plenty of times where I've told y'all, hey, I have to put this off for a couple days, or I have to put this off to the next night because I wasn't able to get to it. Okay, you make adjustments. It's her show. Her name is on there. Oh, crap. You probably got the same notification I got. I hope it's the same notification. Okay. Now, getting into the Trump shenanigans, well, the Trump files, what I've just named the reality show that is all these court casings and filings regarding Trump and the family. Now, keep in mind that right now, with Don, Eric, Ivanka, and Don Sr., their testimony thus far has only been on direct. They are being called by the Attorney General's office. There has been no cross-examination yet. There have been objections from the Trump legal team, but no cross-examination. So the family may be recalled at a later date for cross-examination. And as I go through these updates, also keep in mind that because Ivanka appealed her way out of being a co-defendant, there is no deposition on file. So there's no way to know right now what specifically the line of questioning will be. We don't really have a roadmap for that right now. But today, Eric Trump took the stand, and in stark contrast to his older brother, who was trying to be jovial and put on the charm, Eric was confrontational. Now, when Don Jr. was done with his testimony and he left, he did a little mini press conference where, you could tell that sibling rivalry that seems to be fervent within Donald Trump's direct line comes into play, because he was giving a little pushback. He was posturing like his father. But Eric Trump testified he was more combative than his brother. He refused to answer simply or answer questions that were placed for an answer of yes or no. He wanted to give more explanations. Many parts of Eric's testimony did not match his deposition, and they sure were quick to remind him of that. And you probably heard the quote and people making fun of it where he said, "I pour concrete." He was saying he didn't know anything about appraisals. He didn't pay any attention to that when he was the one placed in big time charge over the trust while Trump was president. He was basically the proxy for Trump. And he said, "I don't focus on appraisals." Now, when he was denying any hand in the appraisals process, he forgot that there was an appraiser who testified about previously haggling with Eric. Now, stick a pin in that real quick, because that testimony made things real fiery in court. Now, around the 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time hour, Ivanka's legal team once again appealed the subpoena, urging her to testify, and they put in a filing for a stay for the rest of the trial, which is strange given that she doesn't really have a dog in the fight. She moved to be out of jurisdiction. She claimed statute of limitations in order to get out of the trial. Now, like I said, there was heightened testimony. The one attorney, Alba, was like, "I object," and making a big scene. And the attorney for the attorney general's side was like, "This is going exactly how I need to. Y'all are making a big skeptical." Once again, there's no jury. There's no cameras in the courtroom outside of the first few minutes of court each day. There's no audience. There's only pissing people off in this courtroom at this point, because even the reporters, the journalists, are becoming exasperated with this legal team. Chris Kise, the lead attorney, even though he hasn't done much of the work here, and the attorney on the Florida Mar-a-Lago case for the documents, Trump's attorney brought up the Judge Engoron's court clerk again because she was passing notes in court. Kind of part of her job. Anytime I'm sat in on a court proceeding, the clerk is... So Judge Engoron pounded the table and threatened to extend the gag order to include the legal team as well. I guess everybody just gonna go to jail together. Now, coming from the Messenger Politics, judge warns Trump's lawyer against swiping at clerk. "Do not refer to my staff again." Judge Engoron suggested that comments by Trump's lawyer, Chris Kise, about the female clerk may be fueled by misogyny. Nah, he don't care about that. Kise has been sanctioned once. We're gonna get to that in a minute. He needed a big show and he needed a distraction. He wanted the judge to become flustered so the judge would be distracted from the damning testimony that was contradicting what Eric was saying in court. And Eric will be back in court for the second part of his testimony tomorrow. A Manhattan judge fired a shot across the bow at former President Donald Trump's lead attorney on Thursday afternoon, ordering him not to make any further comments about his principal law clerk. Do not refer to my staff again, Manhattan Supreme Court Justice Arthur Engoron told Trump's lawyer Christopher Kise at the tail end of testimony by the former president's son, Eric Trump. She's a civil servant, the judge added later. Now remember, it's her job. And remember I said, Eric Trump was contradicting his previous testimony. The clerk is to alert the judge of this thing. Hey, remember on this day with this person, so she slip it over. Engoron previously issued a gag order preventing Trump and the parties from making statements about his staff and fined the former president a total of $15,000 for 2 previous violations. The initial gag order was sparked by Trump's social media post smearing the clerk, Allison Greenfield, with a false rumor involving a politician. On Thursday, the judge commented that he may expand the order to cover the lawyers. Now, child, you would think, oh, well, Chris is such an experienced attorney. He would. Let's get into 58-year-old Chris Kise. Yes, I had to break out his own notepad, okay? From January 7th, 2003 to January 2nd, 2007, he was the Solicitor General of Florida. Don't get too excited about that. You want to know how he got the position? His friend, Charlie Crist, that's it, full stop. That's how he got it. After no longer being the Solicitor General of Florida, one and done. So that lets you know how good he was. He worked as Chris' legal advisor. Now, Kise has won 4 cases before the Supreme Court. Yeah, I got multiple notes on him. In 2008, he was criticized by Public Service Commissioner Nancy Arengizano, I hope I'm saying that correctly, for working as the government's special advisor on energy and climate change while also representing companies responsible for pollution. Until 2016, Kise was on the board of directors for Enterprise Florida. In 2019, he was a transition advisor for Ron DeSantis. Remember when I told y'all? When everybody started really kicking off their campaigns full swing and everybody was like officially putting in the paperwork, I said there were a lot of people from Ron DeSantis's team that were flipping to the other side, and vice versa from Trump and DeSantis. They were just flip-flopping like fish out of water. He was one of them. His most notable clients, the 3 most notable clients that he's had outside of Donald Trump: Andrew Gillum, Charlie Crist, and Rick Scott. Now, he officially joined the Trump legal team on August 30th, 2022. He left a Tallahassee law firm by the name of Foley and Lardner and joined the Miami law firm Continental PLLC to do the work. And he joined the legal team to handle the FBI investigation of the Trump documents. He was paid $3 million for that, and Trump's Save America PAC paid him for that. I don't know how legal that is. I don't think that's legal, but okay. Now, in September of 2022, Trump shifted Kise over to additional legal work. That's when he was officially on the team for Florida. After, remember, Trump was having a time finding an attorney based out of Florida for his arraignment for the Mar-a-Lago case. Y'all remember? You remember. We remember. Trump forgot that he had a Florida-based attorney on his. And the Florida-based attorney didn't say anything. Like, Kise is also involved in the legal cases regarding Trump's role in the January 6th self-coup. Now, remember when I said that Kise had already been sanctioned? On January 26th, I'm sorry, on September 26th of this year, September 26th of this year, he was sanctioned along with 4 other attorneys for making, and I quote, repetitive, frivolous arguments on behalf of Trump and the Trump Organization in the context of New York litigation challenging alleged fraud. Trump is going to lose his legal certificates to do business within the state of New York, and his attorneys are going to jail and lose their licenses. Because let's not forget, Miss Alba, the female attorney, she's having whole ass wardrobe changes. Okay, like this is America's Next Top Model. Now, Laura Ingraham, girl, did you see how easy that was to do some research? Even with wine and a crazy ass, uncontrollable, loud ass boomer dog and a full ass job to take care of. That wasn't that hard. Ooh, all right. All right. I think we're all caught up to date. There are some alerts that came through, and I see that there's some breaking news behind me. I'll get caught up on that. If it's something that cannot wait, y'all know how I do. I'll update you over on TikTok. If I have to go live over there, I will go live. Also, help your girl protect her account. Interact, share, repost, duet, stitch as much as you possibly can, because it seems like the more interaction I get, the less likely it is that I also get a CGV. But as always, make sure you check out the links in the description of this video. And y'all don't be doing that. Can y'all do that, please? Thank you. And if you like this show, please share it on your socials and bring a friend with you. Tell your friends that we're having a good time over here. Don't just keep me to yourself. Don't treat me like the side chick. Treat me like the main chick. Show me off. But as always, each one teach one, each one reach one. Till tomorrow, y'all. I will tell y'all to behave, but I'm not about to.